guys.
Get that high. They get that high level technology ready.
Tell me about what do you say? How do you prepare for playing an 0-12 team?
Oh, we don't talk about stuff like that. They could be 12-0, they could be 0-12. We focus on what we got to do to play well. Focus on what our opponent does well, what we can take away from them. And I talked about this after the UCLA game. Somebody asked me about, we talk about revenge. I think that it's dangerous to use false motivation, whatever you want to call it, because the season's just too long. You got to develop habits of preparation, and you should always try to be your best every day. That's what you try to train these guys for, at least. You don't always succeed, but so we won't discuss the record of our opponent, not one time.
So what do they do? What kind of game?
Well, they got a few guys that can really shoot. So, whenever the three ball is a great equalizer. So I thought late in the game, we didn't recognize in the UCLA game. Obviously, we had a pretty good lead. When a team's in what we call DEFCON 5 on offense, that they need buckets and they need them in a hurry, they're going to shoot some shots that maybe they're not going to shoot early in the game. Deeper threes off the dribble. We didn't do a good job of making sure we had a hand up versus the dribbler in that situation. So it's a learning experience, and these guys got a few guys that take those kind of shots because they have to. Obviously, they don't have a ton of guys can score. They got a few guys can really shoot. So you're always concerned in a game like this. Excuse me, with the three ball, always a big concern.
I asked this coach, knowing your team a lot better than I would watch it on
Maybe.
TV. Accurate, though, of me to say your team is playing better the last couple of games?
I thought defensively we're getting better. I look at phases of the game. We try to take care of the ball, which we're getting better at. We're still getting better at execution. Defensively, I think we're where we are third in the country in defensive efficiency. So that's been a staple of ours. I think we definitely need to rebound the ball better. And you have to continue to improve. I think all you got to do is watch college basketball to realize you're only as good as your next game. And if you're not striving to get better and always trying to improve, like in our case, we've got guys on our bench that are good players that we've got to work really hard with in practice because they're our future. Gary and Kyle are seniors, and we got some guys that, like I thought Ellie and Nasir played really well, but Kyle was having his best game of the year. So you can always get better in so many areas. But I think to answer your question, when you eliminate mistakes, you're gonna win more games. So therefore, people say you're playing better. And obviously, when you have 17 assists to 9 turnovers, you're going to give yourself a chance to win the game. I think that was a big key in our last game.
You said you challenged Jake and Gary and Kyle after the Florida game to push farther. Were you happy with how they responded?
Yeah, well, Troy's now walking through the door. I keep trying to, now I got to get Jake to realize that in late game situations, I'm trying to put the ball in his hands. He's the guy that needs to have the ball in his hands a lot at the end of games. Because Kane and Justin are in their first year playing major minutes in these roles. He's in his third year. So he's a talented guy. He's a future pro, I hope. And he's strong with the ball. He's got size. It's hard to trap him. He can see. But there's no doubt that if you're going to – and for anybody, coaches sometimes get caught up in X's and O's. But if you're going to play 2 top 20 teams and say that you're going to win a game and your best 3 players don't play well, you're kidding yourself. It's just not going to happen. So,
I'm sorry.
So there's no doubt I challenged them. It's just the facts. I'm not trying to put pressure on them, but you're not going to win at UCLA if those guys don't play well.
Speaking of somebody like Kyle, occasionally he'll have his spells where he's kind of not there. Maybe against Xavier, games like that. He stepped up in this game. What changed with him in this one?
I thought, the Mississippi State game got his confidence back. And we talked about the UCLA game. If he could just take his time, That's my thing with him. It's just he's so excitable that he takes himself out of the game. He fights the ADD, and playing on the road in tough environments sometimes can get him so emotional, so excited that he can't play. So with him, it's just my job is to constantly try to get him to calm down and take his time. When he does that, he's really good player on the offensive end because he can score over people. Very few guys score over people. Most kids need to be wide open when they shoot, or they need to create an angle in the post. They need to trick you so they can make a shot in the post. He doesn't. If he can take his time, where he gets on balance with his face-up jumper or his jump hook, he can score over you. And that's a weapon, because if a team plays great defense, and then you have, it's almost like you have a trump card. You can give it to him, and he has better offense than their defense, if he takes his time with it. And sometimes he just gets in a big hurry. So, he needs constant reminders of that. He's such an excitable guy.
Defensively, it seemed like he was denying the ball much too.
I tell you, it was by far his best he's ever done with exactly what you just said. We're going to show him too. I mean, it was by far the best he's ever been as far as his post defense.
What makes Gary such a good leader?
Rebounds with two hands. See, there's different kind of athletes. And in basketball, when we talk about a basketball athlete, it's got nothing to do with dunking. Can you jump in traffic? Well, to jump in traffic, you got to be a 2-foot jumper. It's not layup line. Layup line hops are different than rebounding athleticism. Rebounding athleticism, guys like Charles Barkley would be the greatest example. If you can jump off 2 feet, then you can rebound the ball with 2 hands. If you got to jump off 1 foot, you're going to have a lower hand. Gary's able to jump off 2 feet in traffic, which allows him to rebound with 2 hands. He also has a nose. He has a nose for the ball, which you can't teach. And he's older now. He's trying to be one of the best rebounders in the country. I mean, it's in his mind. You can see. I mean, he keeps trying to get every rebound. But to break it down for you, the biggest reason is he can jump off 2 feet in traffic, which is anybody that can do that, it allows you to rebound the ball with 2 hands.
Rebounding is really important. You always want to see how many rebounds.
Well, it's like we've explained to him, whoever leads the country in rebounding always makes the NBA. You can look that one up. It's the one stat that every GM will tell you translates from college to the pros. And you look at all the big guys that have played here locally, whether it's Jason Maxiel, Corey Blunt, Danny Fortson. They might have been scorers in college, although not Corey, but the other two were. They played long pro careers because they could rebound. And you can look across and see you got James Posey, great rebounder in college. Rebounding translates. And obviously, Kenyon can do everything.
Did he show up there with that rebound technique that you talk about, or did you have to teach him?
No, I mean, Larry did a great job recruiting Gary. Gary was a guy who was vastly underrated and under-recruited. And by the time people figured it out, because he was on a smaller AAU team, Larry had built such a great relationship with Gary, and was honest with him about things he needed to improve on, that they had such a trust level for each other that we were competing. So, but when Larry sent me to see him, it was obvious right away.
Did he already know how to rebound like that?
Yeah, it was obvious right away.
Is consistency moving in the direction that you want to go? I don't know what point in the season.
We'll see. We'll see. You know the story about the Zen Master, right?
Which one?
There's plenty of them.
I know.
They all end in we'll see. Everybody's got all the answers. You know what the Zen Master always says.
There must be all these Zen books. I mean, that's why I always get these we'll see answers. At what point in the season can you expect? I mean, it's tough because consistency. I mean, you obviously want the team to be consistent going.
You're always striving for consistency. You're always striving. Two things you're trying to get. You got to try to get better, and you want guys to play well consistently. I think that, it'd be very foolish to think that because what you did last week, you're going to do this week. That is far from the case in any sport. So the challenge is to keep guys hungry, to keep guys trying to get better. That's the focus. That's as a coaching staff, that's always your focus. Because if you lose that, you're not going to play well and you're going to be inconsistent. Your effort will be inconsistent because your focus is inconsistent. So it's the hardest thing in coaching, keeping guys striving to get better, keeping their focus.
How much more does it help when you have guys within the team fighting for certain spots? Can you notice a big difference when you may have more guys?
Yeah. I mean, that's a key too. I mean, we got young guys, the future of our program. That these practices and a game like tomorrow, hopefully, are big for them. That they're, that although we had some success last week, we got young guys that want to play with it. So they come to practice with great energy, and your job is to make sure that they don't get frustrated with their lack of playing time. That they stay positive and they realize that this, we're a 4-year program, and here you got to get better. Especially the guys stuck behind Gary and Kyle. So you got to encourage them. That's the biggest. That's something that is huge in the way we do things. You got to keep their head up. You got to continue to encourage them, because in this day and age, everybody wants instant gratification, and the sky's falling if you're not playing 30 minutes a game as a freshman. So you got to make sure you continue to tell those guys that they're playing well in practice, and eventually that it's going to pay off in a game. So that's a big part of what we do. So when there's so many parts to this job. You may win the game, but you also got guys that wish they played more. So you're constantly dealing with issues. It's never ending. Just because you won doesn't mean everybody's eating cookies and cream.